how do you reach that more fulfillment and enjoyment out of what you do without always looking to reach the goal of just earning more money?
Well, what is the value of my life? Grow concepts and ideas of what is it that's missing in business. They're missing the magic.
Passion, inspiration, determination. Are you ready to jump into a new business idea? Are you ready to jump into a better life? Welcome to our program, Jump Into It.
Welcome to Jump Into It, a podcast and live show to help entrepreneurial-minded women jump into a better life. Welcome. I'm your host, Gabriella Hellman, and I have with me my co-host, Anita Booth. We have a very interesting, fascinating topic to talk to you today about, and that is about how to put passion and compassion into what you do for a living. And how do you reach that more fulfillment and enjoyment out of what you do without always looking to reach the goal of just earning more money? So we have with us today our guest, Andrea Putting, who is not only the author of this very important topic, but also she's going to explain a little bit more about her entrepreneurial journey and about how do we get there as women entrepreneurs to find more compassion in what we do. First of all, Anita, as before we introduce our guest, Andrea, what are your thoughts about adding more compassion, and I even think passion as well, into what we do beyond just reaching those financial goals?
Thank you. Hi, Gabriella. Hi, Andrea. Thank you so much. I love this topic around compassionate success, and what does that look like? And I think it's a philosophy to some degree, that it truly is a mindset around thinking about some valuable things, values. I think of them as values in life, and how do we introduce those, but be intentional about introducing that. And that can range from being empathetic, being extra generous with your time, and it could even extend to social practices. So I think it is an important topic, as you said, and I'm very excited to hear what Andrea's journey's been like and how she's incorporated it into her business and her coaching. And I know, Andrea, you have a book out, so I'm certainly looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Oh, thank you, Anita. So before we get into the topic in great depth, Andrea, can you just tell our audience, our listeners, a little bit more about yourself, your journey? What inspired you to become an entrepreneur? And how did you get from that inspiration to where you are today?
Lots of questions in there. Thank you for having me on Jump Into It. I'm looking forward to sharing with you.
Thank you.
So I'm obviously from Australia. I live in Melbourne and I like living here. It's a great place to live in many ways. So I have been on a journey of lots of things in my life. I'm multi-passionate. I've always got a lot of things going on at the same time. But where this whole journey started, I cannot leave out the most important aspect of my life was that I was an at-home mum I managed to stay at home with my children right through their schooling years. Although I didn't just stay at home, I did other things, but I was always here for them. So my life was very much centered around being that caregiver. So a lot of that, well, while I say that, it's important on the whole aspect of where I've ended up, because what I saw was my husband working 80 hours a week and not having time for the family, not having time for himself, and just being totally stressed out. And so I was like, who wants to enter that world? It was just horrible. Who wants to go and get a job when that's what you're faced with? But it was a sign of the times, and that's what got us through as a family. And there was many struggles with that. One of the things that I did when my children were at home is I went back to school and I became a naturopath. And at the time I finished that, my children were in high school, and my son said, why not go on the internet? Because it was just this brand new thing that people were getting into. And so I jumped into that. I created a website and called it an online healing center, and I worked at that for several years. Now, at the time, this was last century in the dinosaur era of the internet, so I had to learn HTML and everything just to design a website. So I worked at that for several years, but I lost my passion. I was sitting here day in, day out, sending out parcels, and it's like, that's not what I studied for. I've got to do something else. So I sold my business and went on to work for somebody else. And in that working for somebody else, it was great at first, but yeah, I started to see all the cracks.
It's hard working for other people once you've been an entrepreneur. I find. I don't know.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is, because you're used to dreaming and thinking of where the business can go and how it can do this. And then you've got to stop and go, well, hang on, it's not my business.
Mm.
That's not my place to do that and to make those decisions. And that was kind of a difficult thing. However, it's not really in that that started the cracks. I could see the cracks in way business operates generally, and people going to work, the way that corporations were screwing small businesses, and a whole lot of different things. And I could see also that how easy a toxic environment starts to create in a business. And it was a struggle. And I'd sit on the train every day and I'd watch people, and they'd all be dressed in black, which is kind of common in Melbourne. But everyone's dressed in black as if they were going off to mourning to a soul-sucking job. It was just really depressing for my soul to be around this energy. And it got to the point one day when I was going home from work and I crossed the road to go to the train station, and I stood at the crossing and I was watching the oncoming express train, and I just had, in this split second, I had this thought, it would be so easy to step in front of that train.
Oh my goodness.
And that was a real shock for me. But, in that split second, so many thoughts went on my mind is, well, what is the value of my life? And it was like, well, my kids are grown. Do they still need me? Fortunately, my mind went ahead and grabbed hold of the thought that one day I would have grandchildren and they will need me. And like, this is total split second thinking. And, it just really shocked me that I'd even thought that. So it was kind of like, well, this is the moment for me to pick up and leave the job, because it was becoming a situation of, well, it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for the employee with me at this point. It was there was friction happening, and I just thought,
Is that like, just maybe I can delve into it a little bit deeper? Were you
sure.
at that split moment thinking, what was your purpose in life? Did you have a purpose? Because what you were doing didn't seem to have any purpose, or was it toxic situation, or were there other impeding factors that caused you to think that way?
Yeah, I think it's a build-up of all of that. So yes, it was a toxic situation, had become a toxic situation. But it was also me going through this exploration of, what am I doing here? Is this my purpose? Is there something greater for me to be doing? Which is what I had thought when I sold my business. I remember sitting here in this office thinking, surely there is something greater in the world that I must be doing. And that was also what I was going in my mind at that point. It was like, there has to be more for what I'm supposed to be doing in this world. My somebody once said to me, we were talking about me possibly working. Would it be possible for me to work for them? And this person was a friend and he knew me so well. And he just said, no, you need to be out in the world sharing the love.
I love that.
And so it was really, that comes back to me frequently, is that place, being in a small place for me, was not my purpose. That was not my purpose, to be caught up in that, but to look at, be able to have the experience, to see it, to feel it, to experience, so that I can look from a new perspective to what is missing. What is missing seems to be the constant in my life, is what is missing. What was missing in our lives when I was at home with the kids? What was missing when I was in business for myself? What was missing in the workplace that was causing so much stress to people, causing so many people to get to that point that I was of, well, I don't have, I know, just kind of go, well, what would happen if I didn't have that choice? If I didn't have the choice to get up and leave the business I was in, what would have happened to me?
So what happened? So that was a pivotal moment, and what did that pivot into?
Well, that pivoted me into me going on search for what was missing in business. I spent a lot of time researching, studying, and and trying to grow concepts and ideas of what is it that's missing in business to cause this to happen. But along that way, on that path, I got detoured by an event that happened in Sydney, which is about 1,000 kilometers away from me. But I sat here glued to the computer, seeing this event unfold, where a gunman carrying an ISIS flag stormed a chocolate and coffee cafe.
Oh, okay.
And
when was this?
This is 2014.
Okay, yeah.
And he took everyone hostage, and in the aftermath, 2 innocent people and the gunman were left dead. Now, we didn't know what was going to happen at that point, because tensions were still quite high around Muslim community, and Muslims were afraid to step out because they thought there'd be retaliation against them. They were taking off their religious garb. They were afraid to leave home. But instead, what happened? 150,000 people took to social media with the hashtag "I will ride with you," and they were offering to ride the train, the bus, and the ferry with Muslim people to ensure that they arrive safely. Now, this event, there was a tragedy, but what happened in the aftermath really touched me, and I realised that we're a society where we want to accept people for who they are. We're a peaceful society. We're not responding in hate and terror. We're responding in love and acceptance. So that sat with me for a while, and I thought, well, why do we wait until there's a tragedy before we do this? Why do we wait until there's a tragedy before we reach out to people and say that we accept you for who you are? I want to know who you are. So I started Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony, just encouraging people to reach out to someone and to sit down with them and share stories. Simple, over chocolate and coffee.
Was it a cafe, or was it an online community?
Wherever they are, however they can do it. So it's been done in workplaces, communities, churches, retirement villages, schools, various places, and a lot of just this one-on-one people just, or invited someone into their home and said, come and share chocolate and coffee with me, and let's get to know each other. Let's understand who you are, where you come from, what's your story. So starting that, though, affected me. It was like, well, that's changed who I am. It changes my perspective, how I look at life. Just having a social mission just lifted me up. And I thought, well, so then I went on the exploration of, well, what would that mean to business? How does that look in business? And how does that look in our individual lives? And that exploration took me into a podcast, Social Mission Revolution, so that I could explore that further. So along with my experience, my research, and the podcast, I just put this all together and came to write the books that I've written: Compassionate Prosperity, When Success is Not Enough, and Compassionate Purpose, Discovering a Life of Fulfillment. So I just learned the importance of having this social mission in our life and in business. And what I found that in business is that businesses who are involved in social mission are those that people want to support. And that is where the employees, the employers, the leadership of business are more happy and content in their everyday life, work and life, because what they're doing is more than just earning or making money. It is making a difference in the world.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Nita?
Want to jump in because I think about a few years ago in one of my roles, I also had of course, I'm on the marketing side, but I had the corporate responsibility of the organization, and what that meant was, ensuring that the company was giving back in the community. And so I had the great pleasure of working with many charitable organizations, whether they were food drives or Habitat for Humanity, just so many opportunities to bring the staff in. And in 3 years, I want to say, with all the activity around, hey, we need, every June we got together, and it was called our Corporate Responsibility Month, and everybody would pick something, and the company encouraged it and said, this is the month, you guys pick where you're going to go. And they gave employees time to go and to volunteer, whether it was at the shelter or the food bank, building homes. But I will say that the engagement and feeling of being proud of working for that organization had gone up to, I want to say, 93% when we were doing our employee surveys. So I certainly saw firsthand, not only for the employees, to be quite honest, for myself, going into that role, I really felt changed my trajectory around how I felt about giving back and being a part of something. And I think you're right. I think having something, teaching one another or encouraging one another, to be helpful, to go, to go and volunteer, to go give back, it can change your life. So that's why I was curious, the studies, there's so many studies. I'm sure you probably have some stats that talk about when an organization incorporates this type of, compassionate philosophy, how employees actually do change from that.
Yeah, it does make an enormous difference. And one of the aspects that I'd like to just look at with your experience is that a lot of businesses do go, well, corporate responsibility, and they'll pick a charity and they'll give money or something, but they don't involve the employees.
Right.
They're missing the magic.
They're missing the magic. It's so
Absolutely.
true.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
absolutely,
Yeah.
we built, I just, again, just not to harp on that, but we would, 200 people would be put in teams. And I remember we would be in the parking lot, and we all were building like a mini habitat house, and got to decorate it, and somebody built a McDonald's looking house. And, just, you're bringing people together, you're allowing them to be creative, you're allowing them to contribute to, again, something that's bigger, and that makes them feel good about where they work, and it makes them feel that they have a small way that they can contribute and make change. So it's just, back to your point, a lot of organizations just kind of check the box,
Yeah.
and so that I would imagine if there was some business cases around, who's doing it good versus, the who's just, doing it to showcase that they're checking the box. I certainly think you would see their scores be a bit different with their, employee engagement and satisfaction.
Yeah.
And to a really good point, he said I work for an organization, and it was basically check the box. But the thing was, you check the box to give a X% of your salary to an organization, and you don't see what that translates to. So it's almost like you're being taxed
Mm.
again. It's like a tax, a charity
Hmm.
tax on your payroll, and you're not feeling the benefits, and you're not seeing the benefits. All you're seeing is a deduction in your payroll. And so, as opposed to that warm, fuzzy feeling, I'm really contributing and making a difference. I'm feeling, hey, the organization I'm working for is making like billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're coming after me for my against my paycheck. What are they actually contributing? They're taking it from the employees. They're not necessarily contributing and matching it up as a corporation, but they are checking the box. So I
And
mean,
probably claiming that on the tax deduction as well.
absolutely, right? Absolutely. So there's a lot of skepticism around charities. Like there's a lot
Mm.
of corruption. I mean, I'm being the devil's advocate here, but there's a lot of
Oh yeah.
corruption around charities, and there's that social pressure that you've got to contribute. Whether you're going to a grocery store and they ask you to pay money, out of your bill to go to there. And it's not that, that kind of giving is when it's not necessarily coming from the heart. It's coming from playing on the guilt or sense of obligation that you're being pressured into it. And I think that loses the essence of what you're talking about when you talk about compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've really got to be a part of it. And I think that's one thing that I talk about that many others don't focus on is about how it makes you feel, because that's vital. We're in an era where we're talking a lot about mental health and taking care of people's mental health. This is one of the best ways to improve your mental health, is to feel like your life has worth and value. So if you're not involved in that in some way that makes you feel good about who you are and what you're about, then
Mhm. Yeah.
it's
And it
it's
And
holds
it's
you
not
back. Going ahead,
yeah,
Anita.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I
No,
was
no, no.
just
I
saying,
was
if you're not feeling the passion, then it holds you back. If you start feeling the goodness and the contribute being a contribution, and you're seeing how it's benefiting not only yourself, everybody around in the community, you'll want to give more. You want to put more of
absolutely.
yourself out there. So,
yeah.
so and then more and more people, it's almost like, we'll all start drinking the Kool-Aid kind of thing, right? We'll all start, feeling the joy about giving. And that's what giving should be. It should not be something that is a checkbox. It should not be something that's driven by guilt. It's something that is enriching everyone's lives, the giver and the receiver. Yeah, Anita.
Yeah.
But I do think it also needs to be intentional on the part of, I mean, where the issues come in is the employee is probably keen on doing, they're not the ones saying no. So it really does, I think, need to be driven by the organizational leadership. And I do think it needs to be intentional. So you really actually putting some plan against it versus, that checkbox approach. But I don't think it's just, and Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's just about, the volunteering and the charities. I think that compassionate philosophy can extend into other things like, you're setting up mentorship and leadership opportunities, for your staff and, whether that's gender bias, gender inclusion or not. And I'm a big supporter of women empowerment and making sure that gender parity and inclusion is there. But I'm assuming we're not just talking about, volunteering and giving back, but it extends probably into many other areas. You talked about social justice and some other things. Can you elaborate on what that could look like for an organization?
Absolutely. And you're right. And I believe that once we start looking at this kind of thing, that we're looking at, well, how can we be a more giving, caring organization and live this aspect with social mission, that overflows into everything we do. And everything that I do is around this collaborative, compassionate communities, because that's what chocolate coffee is all about, because I'm extending that into let's start with chocolate and coffee, where we can sit down and have a conversation in a comfortable environment, which that's the beauty of chocolate and coffee breaks, is that it's when you're sitting with somebody with a cuppa in your hands, there's no hierarchy. It's just one-on-one. And that kind of atmosphere helps to create that into an organization. It's allowing people to be who they are and to share what they have to give, and opening the doorways to new ways of being. I think the whole thing just kind of blends beautifully into each other to create an organization that has compassion at their core. It's like, well,
So
yes.
so if I was, I'm president 360 Integral Marketing, and I wanted to inject more passion or compassion with my team and the organization, what recommendations do you give business? I mean, a business, if that's the route that they want to go, what would be some of the steps or considerations?
Yeah. So to start with, I like I said, I start everything with chocolate and coffee. So it's about building the relationships. So if you've got a team that you're wanting to get working together at a better way, then there is nothing more powerful than building those personal relationships, where that they can see that somebody who just hands them something and then you do it and pass it on or whatever isn't just that. There's something more to them. When we understand the people that we're working with and can connect with them on a personal level, then it just allows us to work with them at a deeper level. And then that kind of thing allows us to be open with each other and to be able to say, look, I've got this idea. What do you think about this? And know that they're going to get open and honest feedback. It's opening the doorways of communication so that we can connect with each other.
Is there like a leadership style? Because I know that there are the open door policy leadership styles where, you remove the offices, and it's more like I would say cubicle land, but where those symbolisms of status are kind of removed, that we're all together as a team regardless of what title you hold. I mean, there's been attempts that way. I worked for one organization where in your bonus, it was determined how well you worked with other people. So it wasn't just achieving your financial goals or reaching those numbers, but how well you got along with everybody else. But that actually backfired because the president of the company said, because everybody is rewarded for being nice, innovation walked out the door. Because to be innovative and to be an entrepreneur in an organization, you got to be able to rattle and shake a little bit. And when you rattle and shake, it can offend people that are not open to change.
Yeah.
And so that is so it actually in some ways worked against them, because hey, yeah, it's so nice, but you're not really feeling it. But the bottom line is, you're being financially compensated, and you get to keep your job. So when you're talking about, and I don't have the answer here, but when you're talking about compassion, you're talking it from an authentic place and connecting with people in a real place, and not because of a financial reward, or you're going to get a bonus because you're a nice person. And that to me is, I don't know, I think that's going to be very challenging, because some people are nice and some people aren't nice, or some people are very task oriented and they just want to get things done, and other people want to just talk and make best friends, but their productivity may be dwindling because their niceness to get along with everybody without actually laying the law down or saying what needs to be done. Anita, what are your thoughts? I mean, you've worked as leading people as a leader in a lot of organizations, and I'm sure you've come across all
Mm-hmm.
aspects of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what maybe the the factor that might play into it is how large the organization is. And I've, had the pleasure of working for some really large corporations, big brands, and I've had the pleasure of working with some really small startups. And um, I think it does come to who's leading the organization or who's leading the team. That certainly plays into it, that the personality of the person, and do they hold that emotional IQ? We call it the EQ versus the IQ, right? And um, I've had leaders who have no EQ,
Yeah.
and that makes for difficult to probably bring your authentic. I know we talk a lot about authenticity, and I don't want to talk about being authentic and bringing your authentic self, but I think depending on who your leader is, and what their expectations of you and the team are, you may be bringing a different side of you, and it's not the compassionate side and the go volunteer. Some organizations would not give you time to go and give back and spend hours. We were being rewarded in the one role. We were being rewarded, and we were calculating the hours because we were putting it into our accountability statement. It was like, oh, we did 1,000 hours of volunteer time. Like, that was being rewarded. And so people, you had leaders like me who would go around and rally. Okay, it's United Way time. We're going to do this, and people like that. They go with that energy. And so if you don't have that energy and nobody's leading the charge, then I think it goes back to it's everybody for themselves, and they kind of, want to, secretly maybe do these types of good deeds. But if you're not being rewarded for them, you're certainly not going to be the first person to bring it up because of the fear that, oh, that's not for now. That's for your own time, or that you do that on the weekend. So I don't know, Andrea, what do you think? How do you define success, Andrea? Like, we're talking about compassionate prosperity, and I believe that is the type of leader I aspire to be. I think I am, to bring that compassion into my people, my team. Uh, I define success to include those things myself. And, yes, do I want to make good money? Everybody wants to make good money. But I've left organizations because I was ready to move, and I probably took a big hit on my pay because I wanted to learn and grow and see how other people did things, and not only have that one experience. So I'm curious how you define success.
Yes. So the subtitle for Compassionate Prosperity is When Success is Not Enough, because people were looking at success as being how much money you have in the bank, how many cars
Mhm.
you can afford to buy, do you have a nice house, can I go on holidays? They were defining it monetarily, and that is not enough. So that's why the term compassionate prosperity is that we look at prosperity as our success, the prosperity of the life we live, the people we have in our life, and being able to share that with others. So prosperity is not about how much money you have, but it's about the lifestyle that you have and being happy in your life. So success to me on a personally is about those things that I'm able to do that affect people in a positive way. Am I doing what is my purpose? Am I able to share that with other people? Am I able to create something in my life that is a benefit to other people? So that's my personal success. So then, when I look at compassionate prosperity, that's about everybody. So if you're looking at an organization, everyone has that ability to live and grow at their level of what's important to them. And it's a shared thing. It's not just the people at the top getting rich. It's everybody having a life and being able to be who they are and who they want to be in life and to live that purpose.
That's a very individual thing. Being a woman entrepreneur, it's it's incorporating all those values and all those elements. But if I were to define it, it would be, if I am a woman entrepreneur, it goes back to purpose. Am I fulfilling a need in the community that is going to elevate other people's lives and make their business or their services or the community a better place? And it can, so I look at that as success. And if you do those things, if you're fulfilling a need that needs to be met, then you will become prosperous. So that's basically kind of my philosophy on it. But it's very difficult when and that is something that you can get a whole group of people to rally behind it. That's why companies have mission, vision, and values, because we're getting a whole group of people to have a shared vision to march forward. If we're looking at individuals and individual lifestyles, then it's a much more like everybody is defined as a unique person, and you have to suffice each individual's needs, which makes it a less cohesive kind of we're all marching on the same step and in the same order and with the same dance. So what are your thoughts? Because that's the balance between your own personal feeling good versus the whole organization working, rallying together to feel good. Do you see them as the same, or do you see them as being different?
They are the same, but they're different. Understanding your own personal values and what it is that makes you feel successful is going to be number one. And if everyone can go into something and have thought about that themselves first, then when they come together and say, okay, what do we as a business, corporation, organization, whatever it is, what is it that we see? What is it that we want to bring into the world? Then you're at a better standing place if people know individually to start with.
Yeah, very good point. Because
and then you can find those,
right?
You can find those similarities that meet where that meets to grow on.
Yeah, excellent answer. Excellent answer. So all right, so we're just going to wrap up here. So, we had a couple last questions, and as a successful woman entrepreneur, what's one piece of advice you would like to share with our audience, particularly with aspiring female entrepreneurs?
The most important thing, I believe, is to know yourself is to take some time to really understand who you are, what it is that you want to bring to the world, because we all have skills, but they're not necessarily the things that excite us. So focus on the things that excite you, that you're passionate about, and bring that to the world, because when it's what you're passionate about, you're going to, even when the things are getting heavy and hard, you're still going to get up in the morning and go, I've got to do this. I want to do this. So knowing yourself and your passions is going to be number one in whatever you do. Just follow that passion.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Follow your passion.
Follow your passion.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. If
Andrea.
our audience wanted to get a hold of you and where your books are located, do you want to just give a little direction on how one would connect with you if they wanted to talk a little bit more about this?
Absolutely. So my website is andreaputting.com, and so you can connect there. My books are there, but you can also get them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, just any online bookseller. You can find my books, and also I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm the only Andrea Putting in the world, that at least that I know of. So you can easily find me. Just Google my name and there I'll be.
Wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for being part of Jump Into It. We're very excited, and you shared a lot of great wisdom, and I hope it's helped our audience to get more inspired, more in line, and more compassionate about what they're doing. So our next show, we'll have another fabulous guest whose journey is sure to inspire you. To learn more about our Jump Into It page, you can join our Facebook page, Instagram, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to Jump Into It podcast on your favorite platform. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple TV, to name a few. With the courage and knowledge to bring your ideas to life, jump into it. Thank you for listening.
To it.